Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Horror Podcast. I'm Sean,
I'm Missy.
And I am arthritic Anthony.
and today we're going to be talking about handling the dead, or the undead, as it were. So I don't know if people have been listening to the news, but the unburied dead and some of the buried dead have been returning to life and seeking human victims. It's hard for us to believe what we're reporting here today, but it does indeed seem to be a fact. So I think it's time for you to turn around and bash the brains in of the person next to you. Just bash them into a fine, mushy green paste. Eat them, perhaps on a cracker. Water crackers are good with gooey brain paste. And, live out the rest of your life just on this island Earth. Okay. Good night and Godspeed. Hail Britannia.
You're nasty.
that was part Night of the Living Dead, part The Simpsons, and part I don't know what. Now so
you catch Kuru like that.
It's zombie night. And I guess I never really thought we would do a zombie night because I'm not a huge zombie movie fan. Obviously the first three Romero movies are near and dear to my heart. Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things, and a handful of others, and it's really about it. I think it's one of the most oversaturated, overdone genres of all time. But there are gems, folks, and we are going to give you a couple. I mean, these gems, like if you pull this gem out of a bag, they say motherfucking gem on them, in rhinestone. That's how good these are. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've been up since 4. Anyway, guys, how are you? How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Solid fucking gold.
I think, Anthony, can you start us off with just, it's like, as your attorney, I advise you to take a hit out of the little glass vial in my shaving kit, because this is pure adrenochrome, man. Talk to us. What movie are we starting with?
We are starting with 2009's La Horde.
La Horde.
La Horde.
La Horde.
Better known as The Horde.
The Horde.
This came out in 2009, like I said, co-directed by Yannick Dahan and Benjamin Roche. I caught wind of this flick. We were paying attention to all this was, the time of, towards the end of MySpace. So, we're following Arrow in the Head and all these other, various news sites that were giving us horror stuff. And, I always like a good zombie flick, and IFC got a hold of this one out of France. And I started checking out what's coming out, and IFC, they have these 2 cool zombie flicks coming out relatively same time. There was Mutants and there was this one, and I remember seeing Mutants and it was just a fucking bore, and it was so sad because I was looking forward to it and the trailer really hyped it up. This one, the trailer was kind of like full blast, full of adrenaline, full of fast moving zombies and chaos, and I was like, this looks more up my alley. I am able to get a copy of this, which is odd because when it was released here in the States, IFC didn't end up releasing a Blu-ray for it, just the DVD. But I believe, I don't want to say Alliance, but it's somebody released it in Canada, and I imported it. I brought it home. I put it on, and was just immediately pummeled by this fucking movie. It is very fast paced. It is very fucking violent, very gory. I was like, this is the kind of shit that I want to see. This is 28 days later, amped up and in an isolated setting to where there's nowhere to run. So kind of think Wreck set in a tower block building, or like an abandoned tower block building in Paris, and the chaos just begins. And it doesn't start off as like a a straightforward zombie movie. It actually starts off as a revenge flick where a police officer was executed by a local gang, and several of these officers from the same group decide that they're going to go into this building a la Judge Dredd or The Raid, and punch their way up, floor after floor, get to the bad guy, take him out, and be done with him and get their revenge for their fallen comrade. Not what this fucking movie is about at all. So it's like literally that's the first couple of moments of the movie, and it's sure, yeah, revenge for a fallen comrade is a great idea. I would avenge any of you, just for the record. So if any of you, I'm not anticipating any of you to fall in combat.
I do have a couple local gangsters that want me dead. So just
Well,
saying.
give me a list, and if something happens, I'll punch their fucking ticket. Anyway, to get into it just for a moment, and then we're gonna jump into the film. All three of us. Are we gonna go full spoilers tonight?
Honestly, I don't want to go full spoilers, but I think we can talk the fuck out of this movie without going
Okay.
full spoil. You know what I mean? Like, so aside from really the obvious spoiler being the way it ends, I think anything's game.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and looking at the thumbnail, automatically this is a zombie film. You don't know what kind of zombie film you're getting into, though. And yeah, so these guys, they go in, they do what they got to do. They band together. They go to the tower block, and shit starts to go awry pretty much immediately. And goddamn, we meet some very, very interesting characters along the way. The team that go in, we have Aurora, Wasim. I can't really pronounce his name. Forgive me. I'm not sure how to pronounce all these names. And we meet some more characters. But anyway, long story short, this is just about these guys going in to get their revenge, and a zombie apocalypse begins. Like pretty much almost immediately, and these guys end up finding themselves having to band together with the criminals in the building that they go in to hunt down, and it is just a balls out crazy horror survival type of story that you've seen 1,000 times before, but I think not of this kind of magnitude, especially with this kind of like action and fast paced again, chaos being thrown at you. It is fucking mayhem, and it is beautiful, and it is phallically slapping you in the face. It is fucking outstanding. Guys, let's jump into this film, please. Begin. Missy, what did you think? What did you think of La Horde?
I thought it was fucking awesome. It didn't. It took me a little bit to get into it. Like the opening with the cops didn't grab me immediately, but as soon as we get to zombies, which happens, I don't know, 15 minutes in, then I was in. I like that the whole thing takes place in the big apartment building. So it's got that really anxious siege thing going on. And I really liked the way the camera moves down the hallways with them and whatnot. And the way it's shot, and there's one scene in particular, but the way it's shot, it makes you feel really anxious and claustrophobic. Which gets under my skin, if it gets under my skin, I usually think it's fucking awesome, because there aren't that many movies that get under our skin. We're all jaded, but this played up on the claustrophobia, and you're trapped and surrounded really, really, really well, and I love it.
How about you, Sean? What did you think of La Horde?
So which one was Hordak?
Well,
No, I'm kidding. Man, this is one of those where like you mentioned it, and I know you had mentioned it before, and it like there's there's an enormous list that's like a ticker tape, in my head.
Right? Me
And
too.
when you mentioned it recently, I was like, oh, I'll watch that because I know you mentioned it before. And it went from being one of those that I figured we just talk about in the round robin to like, let's build the episode around this fucker. I watched it last Saturday at a double feature. We're gonna talk about the second movie next, but I didn't know what to expect. The thumbnail for this episode that you're listening to, I'm gonna use, is going to be one of the versions of the thumbnail of this movie. And you can clearly see like it's people surrounded by zombies, like shooting and whatever. And I mean, that's an image, that's a typical zombie movie cover image that doesn't necessarily happen in the movie. In this fucking movie, that fucking scene happens. Reminiscent of 28 Weeks Later, the sequence, which I still think is one of the scariest things I've ever seen, where Imogen Poots and the other kid are like pushed with this crowd into this underground parking garage that's then like locked off, and they're like standing on a car trying to get away from the swarm of people. But in this case, it's like one man standing on top of a car surrounded by a fucking sea of 360 degrees of zombies. And that was that claustrophobia that you mentioned, Missy, which is there through the whole movie. That was like the pinnacle of that fucker right there. I mean, and you're just looking at this and you're like, this motherfucker knows he is not, like, you are dead. Not only are you dead, you're gonna die a terrible death. And so he just uses it.
He's still trying to take as many of them with him as he can.
So fucking awesome. But even like the whole setup with the cop thing, like I know what you mean, where like it's not that it didn't grab me right away, but they don't give you the lay of the land. You don't even know they're cops. So you don't know.
Right.
It starts with this abstraction of like the guy dead and the guy standing over him or whatever. Then it goes to this funeral. Then you get Wassam talking to the mom, I think, and then the other guy. I'm like, be sure you bring them all back. And so then I'm thinking, okay, so he's going to have to fight to bring them all back. And then they go on the raid, and you realize fairly quickly that they're police. And that's like, oh, that's weird. So they're operating outside of, police, being police. This is like a secret revenge squad, not authorized, obviously, by law enforcement. And then I'm getting serious Judge Dredd vibes, right? Because, like Anthony said, this fucking tower block apartment complex, and they're going to work their way up. And then when they get there, and like before they even get in the gangster's door, everything about their plan goes completely wrong. And like to the point where like, I mean, I was just like, I can't even believe that this is the way that this movie's like holy shit. And then to the point where, and this is the crux, right? This is what I thought this is what lights the fuse of the rest of the movie. So not only are they there to revenge a fallen comrade that was executed by one of these motherfuckers, they execute another one of them right in fucking front of them, and then immediately have to be allies with them, like within moments. And that was the one thing where I was like, wait a minute, because you start to see the explosions and I'm like, wait, so we're just supposed to believe that, but they did it good. Like they did, I didn't feel like it was like, boom, zombie apocalypse, like, like on a dime. Like they did actually kind of, it felt natural the way it rolls to them because you're looking at one point, they're standing on the roof watching the city in the distance. And you're seeing these explosions. So obviously shit was percolating and then rolled, down to them where they are. But from that execution in that apartment building.
It's interesting though how they're none the wiser. Like they have no fucking idea really what's going on out there, other than just like we're just doing up here doing our gangster shit,
Yeah, there's never a scene where they're like on the phone or on the internet or out watching a TV. It's just like it's go time right away. Like they figure it out and they go.
Like most movies, you catch it, on the radio. And the CDC have a warning about, it's always something odd like that, and they nonchalantly turn it off. Oh, I don't have time for that. I don't want to hear this. It's not like that at all. It just fucking hits, and again, the impact of it is just fuck, man. So these guys, they're obviously the zombies in this film. They're drawn to sound and obviously sight and sound. If they can see you, they want you. They want to fucking eat you. And all the gunfire and stuff like that. It's just drawing them in. So everything from the surrounding areas are starting to kind of slowly swarm the tower block, and they're getting in. But before that even happens, one of the guys that they have, was it a rival gang member or somebody? They had somebody
No, the
tied up in a
CI,
bathroom with.
the confidential
CI.
informant.
So they got this guy, tied up and with a black plastic bag over his head, and they he's obviously wounded. He looks mortally wounded, like he's going to go out any moment. And then this dude, they just hear chaos happening in the bathroom where they've got him, because I think they got him on the shitter or something like that.
Yeah.
The door flies open. The guy they sent in there is being fucking ripped apart, and this thing is up. It's like all of a sudden hulking. The cool effect they have on it is the bottom of the mask is ripped open, so you see the gaping maw, and it's it's zombified, and it's crazy. So this is your first taste of the zombies. They all the gangsters and and the fucking the cops all turn around with their guns and kind of light it up and shoot it, which seems like for an eternity it doesn't go down. That scene is like completely over the top. But the first thing you realize is, yeah, you can probably get infected by bites. This guy hasn't been bitten. This shit is airborne.
Yeah.
Like, that's the first thing I got from him. I was like, cool, this shit is airborne. Anybody can fucking get it at any given point. And on top of that, obviously, being bitten, which is the majority of the majority of the folks in the film get it. They're, just like any other movie, any other zombie film, it's transmitted that way. But that's kind of like the first setup, and you're like, holy fuck, there is an army of these motherfuckers teaming outside this building. There's a scene later when they kind of make it a little further down where you see they kind of chained off the front doors, and you can see like the seething mass of zombies behind it. And they're all drenched in blood from head to toe. They got so many fucking extras for this. That's another thing I loved about it. Is I don't know how they did the all call for that, but they got a ton of fucking extras. Hey, you want to be a zombie in a movie? And hundreds of fucking people showed up to do this thing. There are so many fucking zombies. It's ridiculous. Yeah. Like Sean said earlier, in the thumbnail, you see the guy, surrounded. This kind of stuff happens in the movie in the most insane places, and there's so fucking many of them. It's just this completely hopeless situation. It's fucking bonkers. Fucking bonkers. Please, somebody take this fucking microphone away from me. I don't actually have a microphone, listeners. I'm broke. No, I'm kidding. I have a microphone, but please, you guys jump in.
The one thing I had a hard time with was how, and like, it's fine that the zombie was abrupt. I love the scene with the CI who changes with the bag on his face, but like there was no warning at all, and the cops aren't there that long for it to have spread that quickly, and suddenly there are like hundreds of zombies. And while I love those shots, especially like the scene we were talking about with the guy in the car and the wall to wall to wall zombies, that's like probably my favorite scene in the movie. But they're sudden, like, how long are they there? An hour? And suddenly if that, I feel like I'm pushing it, saying that they were there for an hour with this whole raid thing, and then suddenly there are hundreds of zombies, and like they don't tell you anything anything about where they came from. I didn't even think of the idea that it is probably airborne. That makes it sit a little better, actually, but it was a little disconcerting. I mean, it's not a big deal. I love the scenes with the wall-to-wall zombies, so it's fine. But
it does seem a little bit like a shortcoming, however, because I did feel that too, like I said, where you're like, wait a minute, like,
did I miss something?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there's any indication earlier in the funeral scene or anything like that where there was something in the background, not like a broadcast, but like a person or something. I don't remember. I don't think there was.
I didn't. I don't recall seeing anything like that
They
either.
make up for it by just, you know what I mean? Like the rest of like if they had slow down moments, I feel like it would have toppled for me. But because it just starts and doesn't stop and just revs, I mean, it literally just keeps picking up speed. So I think that's what ultimately makes it okay, because people will see this, and it does kind of happen like a bit suddenly, but it's
fine.
It's fine. And also I think that was strategic. I don't think that was an oversight. I think that was strategic because I think they needed everything to happen exactly as it happened. And so I think it was probably like, this is going to feel a little bit like rushed, but it's going to be for the best anyway, for the pace of the movie. So I think if they had done something like introduce it a little earlier or added a little something, whatever, to maybe like elongate that timeline to make it seem not so rushed, I think it might have actually impeded the pacing, which is the movie is just all about the fucking pacing. Because it just, oh man.
Yeah, it hits the ground running and doesn't let up.
Yeah. Such great care. And all the characters are terrible people for the most part. Like,
but they're interesting.
The gangsters are great. I don't know if they're all terrible people, but like there's like at one point
most of them are terrible people.
Most of them. They at one point they come across this old French guy who's got like he's got an axe and he's just like chopping up the fucking zombies in the hallway or whatever, and then he becomes part of their group. But there was a moment, I mentioned Anthony the other day, I'm like, there was a moment where I was like, oh, please don't go where with this.
Yeah, there's
and then
a
it didn't.
Scene that's very. Yeah, I'm glad it didn't. It was icky. It was an icky scene.
There were two parts to it. The first part, and I was kind of like, I'm actually surprised I've never seen this before. Where like the guy kind of, I forget it was him or the other guy, kind of, you get the intimation they're going to try to fuck one of the zombies. And I was like, I'm actually kind of surprised that I've never seen that before. So it's kind of an interesting, that wasn't it. But then after that, there was something where I was like, oh, let's not go there. And they didn't, so I was happy. So that was good. But that old guy was nuts.
Yeah, he was crazy. Super nuts. No, I love the lead gangster guy.
Yeah, he's great.
Whose name I can't remember. And he's incredible in that scene you're just talking about, because it's kind of interesting that, I mean, most of these people are pretty bad people, and he's this head drug lord and, killing people, but he's disgusted by what they want to do.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, he's like the voice of reason.
His brother is involved in it.
Yeah. I mean, his brother's a fucking idiot, and he gets exactly what he deserves.
His brother's awful, but
that lead guy. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say his brother has fallen in with Western culture.
Yes.
The older brother has not.
Well, what's his mantra? Like, I'm Nigerian.
Yeah,
like,
he reminds them of that. He's like, you remember where we came from. You remember that we've been through way worse shit than this. This is nothing. Like, this is, I hope that they don't have regular zombie outbreaks in Nigeria. My heart goes out to you if that's the case. But holy fuck. No, his name was Adewale. And the younger brother's name was Bola. Bola, and they're the Marcuti brothers. And then the other gangster guy with the slick back hair, that's his name's Jose. I just have him written down in notes as Jose Gangster. And the other delightful chap we're talking about, the elderly gentleman, his name is Renee. And Renee is a full-blown fucking psychotic. And he has access to like armor, an armory, and just, he's an ex-military vet. He's a military vet and just has kind of been hoping this kind of thing would happen, like stockpiling munitions and stuff, just kind of ready for the craziest shit he can think of to go down. And then when it does, he's excited.
Yeah.
He's fucking elated.
Oh, this is how he wanted it. He loves it, every minute of it.
And he's super racist.
super
And
racist.
super creepy.
Yeah. I mean, he's funny, but he's creepy, and he is super racist because I forget, was he a Nam? Was it? Which is weird.
Yeah, I think.
It's weird to think of like somebody that's not an American soldier being a Nam, or maybe that's just because I'm a fucking stupid Westerner.
Or
I don't
maybe
know.
he's older than that.
But he refers to the zombies as if they're like by a racial epithet that like as if they're Asian, right? So he just like equates them not even as zombies, just as like basically like Charlie, quote unquote,
Yeah.
which is not the term he uses, but
But there's that scene with him and a fucking chain gun that I'm not even going to spoil, just because for the listeners, you have to witness this
yeah,
with
you
your
do.
own fucking eyes. You really do. And it is just the coolest fucking thing I've seen in a zombie film in a long time.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've seen a lot of zombie movies since 2009, and this is still very, very high up on my list. I'm glad that we're able to talk about this flick. I was telling Sean, when this came out, the small group of buddies that I have that were into this kind of stuff had kind of disbanded. So, I mean, I don't really have anybody to talk to about this flick or share this movie with. I am so happy that we're here talking about this one and spotlighting it tonight because it definitely fucking deserves it. Way, way underrated zombie flick that a
Yeah.
lot of folks probably have never heard of.
I'd never heard of it till you mentioned it.
I'd seen like the poster or something somewhere, but I mean, it just looked like the cover makes it look like a dime a dozen.
It
Zombie
totally,
movie.
100%, 100%.
As our dear Tori would say, the thumbnail sucks. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Well, but actually,
I
it doesn't
agree.
suck in this case. You think it sucks because, again, it's the kind of imagery you see on one of these movies that's not actually in the movie. But then when you get to it, it is actually in the movie. I mean, it's slightly different because it's just one person, but they had to put the
Right.
three on. And
Yeah,
we're also
fair point.
glossing over the woman cop. I love the whole thing where there's like a sequence where she gets separated, and one guy's like, "She's dead," and then the other guy's, "Oh, I gotta go with." Well, you better hope she's got balls. And ho ho ho
He's got
ho!
balls.
Wow, she can kill some motherfuckers. She's
Yeah,
really
she's
good.
Brutal.
To quote, she is hard fucking core. She is
Yes.
hardcore. This chick is fucking badass and will fucking waste you at the drop of a fucking she's awesome.
Yeah.
I forget her name offhand, but yeah, her character Aurora fucking balls to the wall and just as crazy as everybody else, with all the shit that they have to go through and get through in order to survive the just this whole endeavor. But yeah, she's one of the most badass fucking characters in the movie. She's ruthless. So yeah, I love her. No, she's fucking rad. She's fucking rad.
And pretty much every character is a badass. Like I love the fact that before they leave the apartment building of the mobsters or the gangsters, when they're like, "We're gonna have to work together, deal with the blah blah blah," they just like the one cop is wounded. They just all start snorting coke because like, why the fuck wouldn't? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't? It's like zombie apocalypse. Yeah, I mean, an Ozzy-sized line, please. I mean, come on.
It's funny because it reminded me of that scene in Predator 2 where in the beginning of the film where El Scorpio, they all fucking get loaded and they just get massacred immediately. That's not necessarily what happens here, but no, it kind of a nice little nod to that, in my opinion. But yeah, fucking great scene. And of course, Renee says something racist, and no, Jesus, fucking solid film, solid film. I really hope a lot of people go out there and watch this shit.
I agree. So this is on Tubi, and
yes,
I don't like watching Tubi. However, I don't think it's on anything else. And there were like 2 commercials, so it wasn't a big deal.
Tubi's not too bad with ads.
I mean, this is the kind of movie I don't want an ad because it breaks the momentum. However, whatever the case may be. But the Blu-ray, as Anthony said, is, I mean, I immediately text you upon watching this, was like, please tell me this is available on Blu-ray. You like, let me work some magic. And then you sent me a link to buy a Blu-ray for like 40 something dollars on eBay. And you're like, this is probably it, man. If it goes, it's gone. And I was contemplating. It's good enough to spend the money, but then I'm like, you know what? I looked at DVD. You can order the DVD on eBay for $10. So that's the route I'm going to take. I've definitely become a Blu-ray snob. However, a lot of the DVDs don't. It's not like they look bad. So I mean,
I've seen plenty of Blu-rays that look just as on par as a DVD. So honestly, it doesn't. As long as you can get the film in its entirety uncut or however
yeah,
that's all that was important. The only reason for that, the only reasoning behind that Blu-ray was just because all the other Blu-rays from various other regions don't come with the English subtitles. So unless your French is fucking tip top, you're asked out. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So that's the French Canadian copy is the only one worldwide that has the English subtitles, and it's also our region, so we're able to pop it in our players, and it works fine. This is a region A. But yeah, the DVD is out there if you're into digital video discs. Remember those?
Yeah.
I do. I still got a bunch of them. I don't care.
Davids. I called them Davids. No, I've actually never called them Davids before just now. But now I will only call them Davids.
Yes. But this is available on Tubi. I mean, yeah, who cares about the commercials? This is pretty much the only way to watch it. There might be a place to buy it digitally or something. I don't know.
There's not.
Oh,
There isn't. Wow, awesome. Okay, well, there you have it. So Tubi.
I looked because if our second TV, I can only stream on it.
Okay.
So I do have a collection of like digital stuff too, and it's not available that I could find.
Wow.
That's a glaring oversight on it. There's just certain movies where it's like, how? But
yeah.
Well, and Prime has it to rent only. Usually they have, you can rent it for $3.99 and you can buy it for like $9.99 or something, and it's only a rental, which is weird because it's not new.
I didn't realize that, or I would have rented it. Shit. I thought I couldn't find it. Well, here's the other thing.
You can rent it on Prime. I looked because I was looking to see if you could buy it digitally, and it was only a rental. And usually the only time I see that is if it's new, but it's from 2009, so that's weird.
So, okay, so that's good to know. Another point to make for the listeners is that there are multiple movies. If you type in the Horde, you're gonna get multiple movies. So you have to type in like La Horde 2009, and I think you'll get it right away. And if you're listening to this, you'll see the thumbnail on whatever platform you're listening to this, and you'll know that's the one. So, because I don't know, I'm not saying the other ones are bad, but they're not, whatever they are, they're not this, that's for sure.
But if you read the synopsis too, you're just looking for the one that says it takes place in a tenement building.
Yeah, there you go.
Because I messaged you guys because I looked it up on Tubi and got like 6 different things.
Yeah, I can't vouch for anything else, but this, man, god damn. Somebody's got to put this out in like, this is like, I don't know who's. It's IFC, but like I don't know. Would they still have the distribution rights after all this time? Like, is this something that like?
No idea.
It doesn't really seem like it's in a Severin or Vinegar Syndrome wheelhouse. So I don't know. I don't feel like there is a company that like, I don't know. There's a pocket with 2000s into the 10s where like there's a lot of bad stuff, but there's a lot of good stuff, but you have to find it. And really, I think a lot of that stuff, like I think of like, what was that Gator movie we did a couple years ago? Rogue, was that it? We're like
the one in Australia?
Yeah, there was another one. Like there was no, I feel like I looked at that. You had to order I think it was a Dimension Extreme or something, and it was like
Dimension Extreme put it out.
Yeah, it was like $40 or $50 for the fucking DVD because it was never so. Somebody needs to pick up that market. I feel like there'll be a market for that. Like get rights to that and put them out on Blu-ray and.
I have the Blu-ray.
Yeah, but you had to import. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with that. I also have a region free, but like, I want a movie like this should be anybody can just go order this fucking movie wherever you are and put it in your fucking player and play it. You know what I mean? Like, to me, this is that good. This is as good as any, like so many. It's better than most of you can go on Amazon, type in zombie movie, and you'll get a bunch of shit that like whatever, and you can order it no problem. And this is, it's difficult. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, IFC was very niche at the time, and it was kind of, one of the I don't want to say hoity-toity, but it was one of those imprints where they were known for just doing, we only do independent cinema, and we don't deal with mainstream stuff. So I don't know. It was one of those things where just and really, unless you had an ear to the ground, you didn't see this thing coming, and you just didn't even know it existed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so weird when it fucking hit because, like I said, I was on track with that shit, ready for it, like waiting for it to come out and saying, yes, I can't wait to buy this on Blu-ray. Fuck, it's not on Blu-ray. It was just one of the major issues we had with it. But yeah, Alliance put out a handful of those Dimension Extremes in Canada. And again, I went to the local like FYE, which regularly got those things in. FYE and like Suncoast Video here in California, which, I think there may be like one or two FYEs left in existence around here.
If
But
that.
yeah, those things would be just jumbled in with the regular American releases. So I'm like, oh, cool, Rogue, $10, I'll take that home. Diary of the Dead, cool, I'll take that home. Just there were a handful of them like that I could grab readily, and I was glad I did when I did because those films are just fucking amazing in general. Rogue is one of those like beautiful picturesque films, gorgeous. But we're not here to talk about Rogue. We're here to talk about something else that bites your ass off. Fucking zombies. Sean, do you want to take us into the next film?
Yes. I'm pretty sure I spoke briefly about this movie because I'm pretty sure it was on my top 10 of, was it 2018? The Night Eats the World. This movie has been on Prime since I watched it the last time. It's still on Prime. It is, I'm so happy I watched this that same night because this is the exact opposite of La Horde. La Horde is Ozzy-sized line, lock and loaded, Quentin Tarantino guns, balls of the wall, and this is the George Romero Dawn of the Dead, quiet, sad, contemplative zombie apocalypse perspective. And I watched it in 2018. I really, really liked it. I watched it Saturday after La Horde, and I really, really, really liked it. And tell me what you think, Missy. What did you think of this movie?
I loved it. I absolutely love this one. I had never heard of it until you guys just watched it, just brought it up the other day. I don't remember you, saying this was like one of your best movies. Usually I try to watch that stuff when we
I
talk
could
about
be
it.
wrong, but I'm pretty sure. I know I brought it up. I'm pretty sure it was in my top 10. Could be wrong.
Okay. I had never heard of it. I just watched this one and the other movie we're going to talk about like right before we recorded. Because I was off today. I watched The Night That Eats the World first. The opening sequence of that movie scares the shit out of me.
For totally different reasons, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess so. But because if the movie starts out, you don't know what's going on. This regular looking guy he goes to his ex's apartment to pick up his stuff, and she's having this big, huge party that he gets pulled into, and it made me feel like I was trapped at a party. It's what it made me feel like. It because he's uncomfortable, and the way the camera is moving, you're just crowded in by all these people, and it's not zombies, it's just people, and it's loud, and you can feel how uncomfortable he is. So it sets that whole tone. And then shit happens. He ends up falling asleep, and then he wakes up, and the world has ended. The zombie apocalypse has happened while he was asleep, which was also a little abrupt, but I was fine with it. This gave me heavy 28 Days Later vibes. and that's one of my favorite movies. Um, it really only focuses on this one character, but he's very relatable and likable.
Mm-hmm.
Even so, he gets trapped in this tenement building, and it's very quiet. You're just kind of following him around as he kind of figures out how he's going to survive. But there's a couple scenes. You find out early on he's a musician. So he makes this music. Like, I love the music scenes. He makes this music out of just things he finds in the buildings and his environment, and it it makes him feel like a real person. Like, it makes him really relatable. Um, I don't know. I really really like this, and like the first half of the movie, you don't see much of the zombies. Like,
Mm-hmm.
everything seems insinuated, but you get these awesome scenescapes. Like when he wakes up from being asleep and comes out into the main room where the party was, and the room's just everything's trashed and there's blood everywhere. Everything's broken. He looks out the window. There's like crash cars, but you don't see the zombies yet. It just all looks empty. And the first half of the movie feels kind of desolate, and then you start getting some zombie action. And when they are on the screen, they're very effective, and the violence and gore and everything is good. Um, but I think the leading actor just he makes the movie. Um, One of my other favorite things is he keeps this zombie as a pet, kind of.
Yeah.
Al- Alfred,
Alfred.
this old man who's trapped in the elevator and like doesn't have any teeth and it doesn't make any noises. He talks to it all the time. And this zombie is just like reaching through the elevator grate trying to grab and bite him, and he's like having a therapy session with the zombie. Just I don't know, it felt really realistic in a relatable way. When it did have action, it was really good, and I thought it packed a hell of a punch. It honestly, out of the three movies we just watched, this is the one I liked the best, and I thought the Horde was fucking awesome. But I like this a little bit better.
Anthony, and before you
Yo,
continue, I just want to say something, and there's a certain
I love you
scene.
too.
There's a certain scene I don't want to talk about. I want to leave for the listeners to find on their own, and it involves a potential companion.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, actually, I don't want.
Wait,
Let's not
which
spoil.
one?
Yeah, let's not spoil anything on either one, because
Okay.
No, that's
this
fine.
this movie, like it, you suffer some fucking heartbreak with this shit. But Anthony, what do you think of The
Oh,
Man
yeah.
Eats the World?
So I thought that I'd seen this before, and I started, kind of. But I was watching it as it was unfolding, and it just seemed so familiar. Back in around 2005, when I was blogging a lot, I had a run of short stories that I was putting online called Flies, and the significance of the flies was that you could never hear them coming, but you could constantly hear when the zombies were teeming with flies buzzing all over them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Anyway, but anyway,
Yeah, that sounds
that's something different. Yeah, thank you guys. But so one of the characters that I continued on with weekly was a guy that was living in who had barricaded himself into an apartment building, and this was his life. Getting down and getting the keys and going in room by room and unfolding. What's in this place and how can I survive? How long can I survive? How do I defeat boredom? How do I deal with being alone? And this character, it just it was they were neck and neck with as far as things I'd written and things that I was seeing on screen, and I just found myself smiling so many times during this movie. And don't get me wrong, this movie, like you said, Sean, is heartbreaking, and there's a lot of fucking gore. The practical effects that are in here are outstanding. In fact, I think I maybe only saw one CG bit, and it's not even that bad the way they set it up. But all the other practical effects that you see in this movie outstanding because they do show you some shit up close. And there's one scene where there's a zombie trying to reach through steel bars, trying to get him from outside. The just it's fucking icky.
Yeah.
Very, very grotesque. Very, very grotesque. And I gotta say, it's so well acted. I love the music that the guy makes because it's made of things that are so simple. It's simplistic. And it reminds me of like something that I used to do with my brother when we were kids. We used to have a little Tascam 4-track recorder, and we would just bang shit together and make loops and add dumb stuff. And this is the kind of stuff I used to do, and the character's so relatable, which made the character easy to write when I was doing the stories.
Mm-hmm.
And no, it just spoke to me on a very personal level. And when the action heats up, it's raw, it's intense, and it's emotion filled. And I mean, it's fucking outstanding. It was really good. I thought I'd seen it. I hadn't seen it. So the other night when I did sit down, I think Saturday evening, it was a first time viewing. Really glad that I took the time on it. I'd seen the thumbnail for a million years on streaming services and just never bothered with it. I'd always heard good things about it. I just never got around to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when we discussed doing the Horde, I was like, okay, cool. Sean said he was following it up with this one. I was like, maybe now it's time. I'm so glad I did because I mean it's just fucking great movie. In fact, I found out that it's on Blu-ray, only it's in Germany. But guess who has one coming to his house in a couple of weeks? So yeah. So yeah, definitely thank you for the recommendation. It is a solid flick. And again, this one is on Tubi and it's on Prime.
It's on Prime.
So yeah, it's on both. Because I started it. I think I started it on Tubi, and then ended up moving over. It was that or the other one I was talking about, but I think it was on there also. But accessible, it's out there, and it is fucking great. And again, as far as character development and just the things this guy goes through, it's like what any of us would go through if we were stuck in this situation. And you have to make decisions on how am I going to eat tomorrow, or is this place safe for me anymore? How do I go about this? And you end up pondering those questions like, would I even survive this shit?
Mm-hmm.
But definitely great movie. Great movie. That's all I gotta say about it. It's fucking awesome.
The lead is Anders Danielson Lai, and the only other thing I've seen him in, I mean, he is outstanding. He is out fucking standing. Only other thing I've seen him in is Personal Shopper with Kristen Stewart, whatever. And I know I really liked that movie, but I don't remember anything. So it's been one that I've earmarked a couple months ago to rewatch. Interesting fact: the guy that plays Alfred, the elderly zombie, Dennis Levant, was born in 1981. Makes me feel old.
What?
Yeah.
He looks decrepit.
Yeah, and
It must be makeup.
the director is Dominique Roche.
Yes.
And for a minute, that's the same last name as the co-director of the last movie. So I was
Tell
like,
me they're related.
I don't know, but for a minute I was like, wait, is that? I just recognize the last name. I'm like, this can't be the same guy. That would be fucking nuts. But no, it does not look like that is the case. But I'm not familiar with anything else that Dominique Roche has done. La Horde is a miniseries from 2021. He did 3 episodes. Looked like this might be his only feature, but goddamn, man, Dominique Roche, do something else. Somebody give this guy money to just make whatever he wants. I really like this movie, and also the main character is so relatable because he's also just such a good person. Like, there's so many instances where he could do something shitty or just take the easy way out, and
he never does.
And he never does. He'll catch himself if he's about to and be like, no. Man, I just, it's another movie. I just feel like more people need to see this movie. I just think there's so many zombie movies out there that are kind of very easily identifiable as zombie movies, and so they kind of carry the brand, and they're crap. And then you get movies like what we're talking about tonight, and it's like these are like it's a feast. Just really, really good movie. Very, very Dawn. If you like Dawn of the Dead, I feel like you'll like this because it just, the thing about Dawn of the Dead that I always loved is, okay, we get situated, right? Okay, well, look at all the stuff we got. Cool, we're good. Oh, wait, what next? Oh, I don't know. Okay, is this it? Like, that's exactly this. There's an element of a big element of that in this movie, but it's done in a different way. It's not a rehash. So, yeah. Night Eats the World on Prime or Tubi. Very good movie. What about our third?
Now, always keeping it ear to the underground, IFC released this film in 2015, uh, a Danish film called What We Become, written and directed by Michelson. This flick came out through IFC. Um, another film that at that time it was odd because Shout Factory was distributing these movies. If I'm not mistaken, I think like Pyewacket was also an IFC film that was released under the Scream banner. And yeah, there's a handful of those flicks floating around. This was one of them, and I remember catching a trailer, and same thing. I was like, okay, cool. I've got a traditional zombie film, a la Night of the Living Dead, set in suburban Denmark of all places. Okay, let's see where this goes. And I waited it out. I managed to get a rental at some point, and wow, actually, I take that back. It was my first year of doing uh 31 Nights of Horror for the month of October. I remember I'd gone online. I had one of those doodads where you can watch whatever you want, and that was on there. So I already known about the film. I was like, let me stream it over here. Don't arrest me. But anyway, yeah, this is actually one I haven't added to my collection yet. So at some point, I would like to add this. It is available on Blu-ray and DVD. Anyway, this is a traditional zombie film set in the suburbs, and it's a bit of a slow burn. This one doesn't, hit the ground running or anything like that. This is the traditional. You hear the broadcast on the radio, you start to see the things on the news, you start to hear that this is going on in larger cities, that it hasn't come out to the burbs yet, but it is making its way there. And eventually, like the city is shut down via military control, and there's blockades going up, and just basically the nightmare of being trapped in like one of the larger cities has now come to your home, and they're barricading people in their houses, and they still don't know what's going on. All they're hearing is that there's a virus out there. You're not sure what it does. So the zombie aspect of it is something that gets introduced almost midway through the film, and then you kind of see the paranoia start happening with people. There's a couple, in the film that kind of turn on each other. Well, one of them turns on the other just because of, again, paranoia and fear, and you start to see those dynamics take hold of a particular family that they're focused on in the movie, and it's 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 got a charm to it that is wholesome, but ultimately is also tragic because you know where this is heading when you watch it. It's very grim, especially by the end of the film. There's no happy ending here. There's it's just again, just as dark a reality as say anything in the Romero verse. You're gonna see, it's a fight for survival by the end of it, and it is very fucking rough, and it's skin of your teeth, but for some of these folks, and it gets brutal, and when it does get brutal, it's very fucking intense. Uh, the acting on it is a little, I want to say, almost like soap opera. That's just my opinion, but I don't think that takes away from the storytelling in general because I still like where it's going, and again, it's just something I'm accustomed to, especially being a huge Romero fan. Uh, but I really dug the hell out of this one, and it's another one you just don't hear about too often. I don't have really any bad things to say about it other than like stupid kids, because stupid kids find a way to ruin fucking everything in a zombie flick, i.e., like the Dawn of the Dead remake. Fucking what was the dog's name? Patches.
Nilos! Nilos! Has anyone seen Nilos? Nilos!
They ate that rabbit.
Oh my god, dude. Okay, so you got, because that scene where she's like, anyone seen the? Oh,
ate that
I'm like,
rabbit.
they're fucking eating them. Come on. Because the first thing that scene starts, and I'm like, I thought they were rationing food. They got a big pot of stew. And I was like, oh, I
Right.
see. I see what's happening here. Ah,
But yeah, there's some wild shit that happens in here, and there's some great set pieces that were done fairly low budget, because you can tell how they kind of set up
yeah.
certain areas, and
Mhm.
it's pretty impressive what you can do by just kind of throwing trash all over the floor, and it just becomes
I'm gonna
effective.
try
I
that
mean, yeah,
now. Hold on.
yeah, it's not even dirty. It's just like, okay, well, we've got a bin of paper, and here's some plastic wrap. Let's throw that on the floor, and this and that, and add some wind, and it looks post-apocalyptic, and it's effective. So I mean, those types of things that they did with it, I admire, because obviously, that takes me back to the Halloween lore, reusing painted leaves and breaking them up and reusing them. So just, that kind of DIY aspect that went into it, I really appreciated. And the storytelling is awesome. Again, when they do get into the gore, the practical effects in it are pretty damn good too. They don't spend too much on it though. I mean, there are kills obviously, but it's not like the other two films where you're really really getting a lot of the over the top gore. Um, in fact, Night of the Living Dead is probably a little bit gorier than this film, but it's more about the storytelling of what's going on with this family's fight for survival, and I think that is meant to shine through over everything else, and in that regard, it makes it a fucking awesome flick, and
Yeah.
it's one of those ones that I really hope people will take the time to check out, and I'm sure all the Scream Factory stands out there like, oh yeah, I saw it already. But there's a lot of folks out there that have never even heard of it. Again, it's a Danish zombie film. There's not a lot of them out there, but this one
Yeah.
is pretty outstanding. So definitely recommend from me.
I thought it was a pretty good one. It took a little while to get into it, but it definitely sets a really unsettling tone. Especially, I don't think it would have hit as hard had we not had the pandemic a few years ago. But I mean, I definitely, like, I found myself looking it up. Wait, is this a new movie? No, it's 2015, and it reflected a lot of what was going on during the pandemic, which made it feel more realistic and creepy. And it ha- it has this gloom to it, and like this really uncomfortable closed in feeling once they get sealed in the house and they're stuck, they're in the house with their family. um I don't know, it's not a bad movie. I didn't i loved the other two. This one not as much, but it held my attention, and it definitely made me uncomfortable. And I thought that it had some interesting points. Like, there's a scene with the son Gustav talking to his father. um he sneaks out because they've been sealed in their house by the military, and he sneaks out to see what's going on, and sees soldiers dragging people out of their house in black bags, and all this fucked up shit. And the father is just like, well, why would you do that? They tell us you just have to stay inside. And the father wants to believe everything that the military and the government and the news is telling them. Obviously the son knows that's not true because he's just seen it. I liked that interaction. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a good scene, because that definitely I feel like that definitely sets up the kind of like the new world or the new perspective versus the old, where like people want to still believe, older people want to still believe that like, oh, your government's looking out for you, you know? And it's like, no, no, they're
Right, and
fucking,
we know that's not true.
no, they're not. They're not looking out for you. And
No, they're not.
you know, just that, but also they've set up with the father already that he just kind of, even in the face of this, he's just going to be the guy that's like, no, we have to do what they say, and you know, and it ultimately like he kind of redeems himself. Actually, he totally does, because he makes a choice at the end. He doesn't actually get to carry it out, but he's the one that's like, no, we have to do this. And then the another family
That's
member's
true.
like, another family member's like, absolutely not. He's like, no, we have to do this. And that was surprising coming from that character. So he had a real arc. He had development. Uh, it would definitely be the least like I don't. That's the wrong way to say it, but
It's not a bad movie,
it's
and
this is
anything
like a
could be worse.
solid 3-star movie, whereas the other
Mhm.
two are like probably 5.
Yeah.
For different reasons. Like the Night
Mhm.
Eats the World is
I
a
agree.
better movie than the Horde, but the Horde is just like, let me punch you in the face until you don't feel it anymore. How's it,
Right. Yeah, they're both great for really different reasons.
for really different reasons. But I really did like this, and I also felt like it is so steeped in the family and like these social interactions in the suburbs and
Mhm.
the suburban kind of minutia, and it's effective doing that. But so I kind of was lulled into this like, okay, and then the third act really punches it up, and I wasn't really prepared for that, so I liked that as well. Like I like the fact that they kind of
Okay.
like lulled me into a sense of complacency, and then set things
Okay.
on
That it
fire.
didn't do that for. I mean, it didn't lull me into. Actually, this movie made me extremely, extremely, extremely anxious. Be starting um with them being sealed in and all this stuff with the government, but then being sealed in with the family, and then these other people from the story start drifting in, and now you're in this closed in space with your family and all these neighbors,
Yeah,
and like it. No, if there's a zombie apocalypse, I'm much more likely to be Sam from the other movie. Find a place where there aren't people,
yeah.
and you'll be better off.
Although all Sam wants to do is find other people, which is interesting. That's one of the I love that about Night Eats the World.
But this one, it plays on. It makes you feel really fucking trapped.
It does. It's very good job. Well, anytime you got a movie where they drop giant, basically black garbage bags over your home. I'm thinking of like Wreck. I forget if it's Wreck 1 or 2, where they basically like fucking cover the shit, with the plastic.
I thought they did that in the first one. I don't think I've seen any of the other ones, only the first.
Okay, so that's the first one. Um,
Yeah, because there's that bit where they try and look outside, and then they realize that's the one they first realize there's snipers that aimed
yeah,
at the
yeah,
windows.
yeah.
They start
Okay.
shooting at the windows.
I mean, 1 and 2 are essentially the same movie. It's like
Yeah,
there is no like Halloween 1 and 2, where it's like literally like it literally 2 picks up exactly where 1 ends with no time lapse, if I remember correctly. So you know, um, yeah, I dug this. I watched it on Tubi. The ads in this one didn't. I just fucking hate
It
advertising.
only had like 2 ads. Like it
Yeah,
wasn't
but
that bad.
it still just sucks.
and it is available for y'all if you want to consume it or let it consume you.
There you go.
Definitely give a watch.
So, Anthony, you've got one more that you watched that we didn't. What's that?
This is called The Returned from 2013, directed by Manuel Carballo, I believe was his name. He's a Spanish director. And this is, I remember catching this one on Netflix probably 2014 or so. 2014, 2015, around that time, one of those things where I got home early afternoon, didn't have anything to watch. I'm like, oh, this thumbnail looked kind of interesting. I'll check it out. And ended up being quite surprised at what it is. It is a zombie film and it is not a zombie film. It is about folks that have been essentially given a protein and given it within the first 36 hours of being infected by, a zombie bitten or what have you, and it's able to reverse the effects. But out of all this stuff that had happened, the people that are quote unquote the returned, you have to carry a special ID around that, that allows you access to this medication that you have to inject daily. And the plot of the film basically is that there's about to be a shortage of it, and it's about to go away. So now there's all this fear and panic in the streets about another zombie outbreak coming because there isn't enough of the medication to go around, and the synthetic medication that they've made isn't working. And so now there's all this fear, and little by little, the local government starts to step in and basically come knocking at your door and say, "Oh, is so and so home?" And it starts to go from there, and it becomes a much bigger story about how bad we get as people when we get desperate. And you maybe see two or three zombies in the entire film, and one of the main characters is actually played by Chris Holden Reed. Some people might know him from Underworld Awakening. He was like the huge fucking lichen that they would inject with all this shit and become this big monster lichen. That's what I remember him from anyway. But he's the lead. He's a music teacher, but he just happened to be a guy that got bit, and they saved him. And there's another aspect to it, and it's about anti-return groups that are basically like militia groups that are against people coming back and are. Anyway, it just adds another dynamic to the film that I won't spoil because it's pretty heartbreaking what goes on in this flick. It's a downer right off the bat. It's very sad, but it is definitely worth a watch. As an non-conventional zombie film, it is a very human film, and will definitely have you running the gamut of emotions. And it's tough as far as watching these characters go through what they go through. But I'll be damned if I don't say that it's a good flick, and it is. And like I said, I saw this several years ago and wanted to give this one another watch. Glad I did, and I highly recommend it. I don't know if it's on Netflix anymore. This one, however, is on Prime and is also on Tubi, so it's again accessible for those that do want to check it out. I recommend it. But yeah, that was the fourth zombie film that I watched.
Nice. I'd never heard of this one before you mentioned it
Me
to me the
neither.
other day. And so this is actually stateside?
I believe it's Canada. This is a
Canada, it
joint.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's joint between Spain and Canada, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but I think the majority of it was filmed in Canada. And I think the actors and actresses are also Canadian. They don't have flapping heads like on that cartoon, I noticed.
Oh man, that's
I
awesome.
apologize to all Canadians right now.
No,
I am sorry.
I think they would. Well, no, it's probably good that you apologize, but no, that's funny. That's the second time tonight that South Park the movie came up in a way that made me want to watch it again. Wow. So okay, so I feel like the takeaway for listeners this episode, I just think it's an overdone. I mean, and I know I like more zombie movies than what I led with, right? With the four or five that I mentioned to start. But the ratio of the number of zombie movies that exist and you can find on any streaming service or wherever to what is actually worth watching, I feel like it's top heavy in favor of not worth watching. I feel the way I feel about zombie movies, how I feel about IPAs, where like at some point IPA just became like the craft beer explosion buzzword. And so if you're an up and coming brewery, you had to make an IPA. And the only way to distinguish your IPA was to just put more hops in it so that at some point I'm drinking shit 10 years ago. I'm like, I've had 2 sips of this beer and I have no water in my body left. Like, what the fuck? And I kind of feel that with zombie movies, especially in that, like, we're talking about this Dimension Extreme, the aughts, the tens, like, it just, there. So that's still where movies were making, you could have a movie that opened at theaters and didn't do well and hit home video, and you made a lot of money. And so, that was a viable option, an afterlife, if you will, for a film. And also just direct to DVD. There's so many movies I saw in the early 2000s were direct to DVD, and they were all fucking fantastic, right? Not all, but I mean all the ones I'm thinking of.
But there were a lot of good ones.
A lot of good ones. And then at some point, now it's like you got to beg to get a fucking DVD. Half the time, remember all the lavish cases? I mean, obviously, like Severin and so many companies still do that, but it's niche. And like if you go get, well, I feel like Underwater was like when I bought that on Blu-ray, and it's like a disc. There's not even not even a placard inside with like an ad for something. It's just like, here's your fucking disc, Luddite. Fuck you.
We're lucky we even got it at that point. Disney had taken over Fox Studios,
Yeah.
and they weren't even going to release that movie. It had already been shelved for 3 years by that point.
Yeah. I mean,
it was one of those.
That's
we're
a
lucky
concern.
we even got it. Yeah, it is. I mean, and look what Disney did with fucking Barbarian. Look what they did with the Barbarian.
Right.
That may never see the fucking light of day. We don't know.
Still, and that it's just, I don't know. It's been something that's been on my mind a lot recently. Not having Netflix right now, and I've said I'm not going to go back to. I'm not watching any streaming shows or any new content. Movies on Shudder, but like, there's a Reservation Dogs, and it's nothing against those shows, the creators, but I'm trying to my one voice against millions. Like I don't want to stream that stuff till the strike's over because I feel strongly about it. And I feel like these companies need to, get kicked in the nuts a little bit. Not that me not streaming Netflix, they're like whatever. But Netflix is, I feel like they bother me for a bunch of reasons. And I said, okay, well, after the strike, when Stranger Things comes back, I'll get it. Now they just dropped I'm not going to watch it, but the last Mike Flanagan, production for Netflix, the Fall of the House of Usher. I really want to see that. It opens on the 12th of October, or opens. It drops on the 12th.
I thought it was the 6th.
Maybe. I'm pretty sure I read the 12th, but it might be the 6th. It opens, so it drops early October. And I'm like, okay, so maybe, but so the point being, other than Stranger Things and a few one-offs, they don't release their stuff because Netflix is like, if you want to watch a Netflix production, sign up for Netflix, bitch. Because if you think about it, they make more money if you sign up. Because Netflix now is to get it non-commercials, it's $20. It's $19.99. So if you sign up for 1 month, it's the same price as usually a DVD, or close to it. So they're going to make more money to have you as a stream, and they're banking on the fact that once you subscribe, you'll stay for at least a couple months. And we lose as consumers, as movie lovers, we lose. I can't get brand new cherry flavor. That sucks.
So something is killing the children is now in fucking development hell right now as a result, I think, from the strike and all that. I don't
Well, so that'll pick back up for sure.
Out.
For sure that'll pick. I mean, so there will be all the delays, right? There will be a lot of delays. There'll be like 2 years. I think the last projected thing I read, which was anecdotal, but like, you're going to see this for like 2 years, which you kind of saw it with coming out of COVID, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know that I felt that it was, I don't know. But yeah, there's going to be certain things, I was reading something about like the Marvel movie adjustment schedule where it's like all that stuff like this, now it's all being steadily pushed back. I don't give a fuck about their schedule.
I don't
They
even
can-
care. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't either. I
don't either.
haven't watched anything since the
there's no
Raimi.
X-Men. I don't give a shit. Yeah, there's no X-Men. I don't give a fuck.
But point being, it's affecting, and it's just I don't know. Anyway, whatever. So we hope, listeners, that you will check these movies out. I think maybe in this order. I feel like you want to have a killer doubleheader.
Yeah.
La Horde and Night Eats
I
the
mean,
World.
unless you want to watch the Horde last.
Yeah, that could work too.
I'm of the opinion when you do like a double feature or something, you should show the slower movie first, and then.
I usually am too, but I got to tell you, had I not watched Night Eat the World, I don't know that I would have slept after watching the Horde, because I just wanted to like go out and start like, I don't know. It just made me want to fucking like light shit up. It really just jacked me up, man. And the Night Eat the World was a nice way to kind of come down. So it's like a cinematic speedball, if you will. In no way endorsing that. But yeah, so I feel like these are all great entries in the zombie pantheon, and we hope that you check them out. If you do, hit us up on social media and let us know. Say, hey, you know what? This movie rocked, or hey, you know what? Fuck you. Well, maybe don't do that. If we're having a sensitive day, it might be bad. No, I don't give a fuck. Whatever. I'll just La Horde your ass if you do that. So for the good zombie movie edition, now I'm speaking like Phil Hartman's Frankenstein. Good zombie movie. Fire bad. La Horde good. I am La Sean.
I'm still just Missy.
And I am still arthritic, Anthony.
Take some of that Advil, arthritis.
I'm gonna go tiger ball my whole body up right now.
Advil good. Arthritis bad.
Hapless teenagers beset by demons in the woods. A strange new drug that turns art into murder. A can't beat a deal on a new house with a horrifying past. A video game that might usher in the apocalypse. From the demented mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires, Shadow Play, and Murder Virus, comes Volume 4, collecting Baker's no sleep work along with several never-before-published short stories. This 99-cent volume also includes the opening chapter of the author's forthcoming teenage giallo novel, Black Gloves and Broken Hearts, due out later this year.